Hello and welcome to Produced By. Just quickly before we begin, if you enjoy the show, please consider supporting it by joining our Patreon. You can choose from a list of memberships and will receive some exciting rewards. Thank you, and back to the episode. Hello Ronnie, thank you for joining us today and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you.
So Ronnie, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm from Japan, born and raised in Kyoto, Japan. I moved to New Zealand for a few years during my high school years, and I moved to the UK, lived there for almost 8 years, and now I am back in Japan, living in Tokyo, working as a creative consultant at TikTok.
That sounds exciting. As I said, never spoken with anyone from there, so let's dive into it. So, can we maybe start with your background? How was it growing up in Japan, or something about your childhood?
Yeah, sure, of course. So growing up, I was a very playful and crafty kid. I spent a lot of time hanging out with friends, drawing, crafting something with Play-Doh or papers. Um, my uncle kind of told me how to draw because he used to be a graphic designer. And in school, I was also in the band playing rock music with my bass guitar. So both my parents were very supportive of whatever I wanted to do.
So you were surrounded by art from a very young age.
Yeah, I was interested in so many different things, and luckily I had very supportive family and friends. So yeah, I was wearing so many hats.
So how or why did you decide what kind of art specifically to pursue?
My career.
Yeah, it's because as you said, you are a graphic designer, but you played in a band. So why did you decide for this career instead of being a musician or something?
Yeah, so up until I was in high school, I literally didn't know what I wanted to do for a living. Although I was interested in music, drawing, crafting, I was definitely not on the professional level. So I was aware that those jobs won't pay well unless you're exceptionally good. So I thought to myself, what would be the job that I get to be creative, but also pays well?
Yeah,
This
it
is
needs to be
really, really
smart.
important. Yeah, so many of my friends were kind of going to uni to study business, but I was not sure if that's something I wanted to do. So I was looking into different courses, universities in the UK, and advertising and branding really stood out to me. So
Mhm.
that is how I chose my major. And I remember in one of the classes, this lady came to our seminar as a guest speaker, and she was a creative executive from an advertising agency and talked about what she does. And I was so impressed, and that I was like, "Oh, that's exactly what I want to do." So
Mm.
that's how I ended up being in the advertising industry.
Mhm. But tell us in the first place, why did you go to UK? Why haven't you stayed in Japan?
Yeah, so in my high school years, I decided to move to New Zealand, and originally my plan was to study in New Zealand.
Mhm.
But then, like I said, I was like, oh, maybe I'm interested in doing advertising. Um, so I thought to myself that maybe studying advertising in New Zealand is not the best option. So I was like, I want to put myself in the environment that can offer the best um, um, surroundings and opportunities out there. So I was like, okay, maybe I can go to the UK. And that's how I ended up being in the UK.
Mhm. And also, how does that happen that you go to study to New Zealand? Is that something that is regular for people from where we come from, or it's I guess it's not usual. So tell us more.
Yeah, it's not regular at all. So a lot of Japanese people don't speak English, but luckily I was in a place where I was lucky enough to have had those English classes since when I was really really young. Um, so I kind of picked up English really early on, and I guess my parents were kind of hoping me to kind of go to a Japanese university and etc. I was like, that's a bit normal. That's something that everyone does. But since I was fluent in English already, I was like, oh, maybe I can expand my opportunities. So
Mhm.
I decided to look into different places. And back then, going to New Zealand was like really fascinating. It's still a really fascinating place to be in, but I was really attracted to how vast it is and how nature it is. So I
Mhm.
decided to go to New Zealand.
And did you go to Auckland or Wellington or whereabouts in New Zealand?
So yeah, I stayed in Queenstown in New Zealand,
Mhm.
which is one of the most beautiful places. And yeah, I made so many friends there. I learned so many different things from different cultures, backgrounds. So yeah.
Mhm. I have to ask you because I'm really curious. Can you compare some things about cultures or the places when it comes to Japan, New Zealand, as well as UK? Because the majority of
Mm.
the people I spoke with, or probably the listeners of the podcast, they don't have this knowledge or they don't have access to people uh, from there. So it would be great if you could introduce us a bit to the world of either Japan or New Zealand.
Yeah. So what I love about the people who, people live in New Zealand is that they are so friendly. If you go to a shop, they talk to you with really friendly manner.
Mhm.
And also, I was in Queenstown and I was in a shared house with people from all over the world as well. But to go to school that I used to go, uh, it was such a long way and it was like kind of really steepy road as well.
Mhm.
So what we used to do is that we used to hitchhike quite a lot to go to school
Mhm.
because it was the best way to do it. It was the cheapest way to do it. So yeah, I used to hitchhike a lot. And when every time I hitchhiked, someone always picks me up and they ask me like where I come from, why I came to New Zealand and stuff like that. And I guess in Japan, if you do the same thing, like you wouldn't get the same response. They wouldn't ask your background, or they probably not going to pick you up even.
Mhm.
Uh, Japanese people are very polite and friendly as well, but not as much as the people in New Zealand. Um, in that sense, I guess, kind of like how indirect the British people can be. Um, is quite similar to what Japanese people are, but there are a lot of like differences in both cultures. Um, I can go on and on and on, but yeah, so I find those cultural differences very fascinating and interesting, and
Mhm.
that's something definitely that I'm always intrigued to find out and to talk more.
Mhm. And maybe you mentioned it, but what was the particular reason for choosing New Zealand?
Yeah, so New Zealand, I was looking into so many different places and options when I was in Japan. Um, and I'm from a city called Kyoto, Japan. And Kyoto is kind of like really, really historical and traditional, but it's kind of like modern at the same time. There's a lot of like parks and rivers and nature that you you can go to,
Mhm.
and I was looking into somewhere similar, I guess. I didn't want to go to somewhere that is really, really big and massive because I knew that I was going to be so overwhelmed by it.
Mm.
So I chose New Zealand because um, it looked really beautiful. And I was so attracted to how beautiful it was, or it
Mm.
is still.
That makes complete sense to me. From the picture I've got from New Zealand, I've never been there, but what I know, it's just a beautiful place, and I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. If you haven't been there yet, you've got to check it out. It's quite stunning.
Yeah, and I would regret not asking you. So, have you visited the place where The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings was filmed?
You know what? That's something I really regret not doing it.
Oh,
Uh, really should have been, but it was kind of far away from where I lived, so I didn't
okay.
really have a chance to go. But if I had a chance to go back to New Zealand, I would definitely do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, that's cool. And you said that you met people from other places of the world as well, but were there also people from Japan, or it was literally, I don't know, Europeans or Americans?
There were a few people from Japan, but it was mostly Brazilians for some reasons. I really don't
Oh,
know
wow.
why there were so many Brazilians in New Zealand, but I met so many Brazilian people when I was living in New Zealand, and they know how to party. We don't really have a party culture, so
I heard that
that I
as
guess
well.
that's yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't expect Brazilians, but probably a fair point, yeah. And for how long did you stay there again?
Like a few years, 2 years.
Mm-hmm. And then you decided to move to London, right?
Yeah, decided to move to London after.
And what was the reason for London specifically?
Yeah, so I was kind of like started to think that what I really want to study at universities, and I so many of my friends were going to study business, but I was not sure if that's something I wanted to do. So I was looking into different courses in universities in the UK, not specifically in the UK, but all over different places. But then, kind of like media, entertainment, opportunities. I was like, maybe I can go to London. So
Mm.
I started looking into different universities in the UK specifically, and advertising and branding really stood out to me. So that's how I chose my major.
Mm-hmm. And how did you actually feel like when you were moving, either for the first time to New Zealand or second time to London? Because for you, maybe not New Zealand, but London, it's literally across the whole world. So were you excited? Were you scared? Or what were your feelings like?
Yeah, so when I was in high school, I had an opportunity to go to London for like a month, um, just to experience the culture and the people and the food and everything. So I knew what was London's going to be like, and so yeah, in that sense, I didn't really have any hesitation
Mhm.
in choosing. I want to live in London because I was really familiar with it.
So it left a good impression on you?
Yeah, definitely. I thought it was really beautiful, and I
Hmm.
thought it was quite different from Japan. In New Zealand, it's quite different as well, but then you can see kind of like because it's really nature oriented place. You can tell that it's different from Japan, but there's not much of a significant differences in terms of how it looks. But
Hmm.
when you go to Europe, that's a whole different thing. That's a whole different world.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, when I went to the UK for the first time, I was like, wow, this
Yeah.
looks so big and beautiful. Even I was like, I I remember like going to this really dodgy street in like East London, and I was like taking pictures everywhere. Oh, this is so beautiful. But now I think about it, like it's not like the place where you take photos.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And did you find was London or can you compare how multicultural is London compared to both New Zealand and Japan? Because London is very multicultural. You meet people literally from everywhere. So what is it when compared to those other places?
Yeah, um, so where I come from and from Japan is um relatively small if you compare it with Tokyo. I never lived in Tokyo um before before I started working at TikTok. So I only knew what it was like to live in Kyoto. Kyoto is quite international in the sense that we have like those tourists from all over the world coming in every year, every season. But then there's not many people who live there as
Mhm.
foreigners. Um, Whereas I guess New Zealand was a little bit more diverse than Kyoto. So I met so many people from different parts of the world. But then coming to London was like a whole different level, I would say. I was so surprised. I remember someone told me that like about 50 or about 40% of people who live in London come from somewhere else, not from the UK.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that would never happen in Japan. I mean, that would be great if that was the case in Tokyo. But
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. So I was really amazed with how diverse it is.
Yeah, I even remember from my studies that in my course, I would say the majority of people were outside of UK and
Yeah,
especially outside of London. Yeah.
exactly.
So tell us more about the studies in London. How was it? Did it meet your expectations?
Yeah, definitely. Although I was really overwhelmed for the past few years, I started living in this student hall with people from the UK, with people from different parts of the world, and I remember that because I'm a bit of like an introverted person, um, so I like to stay at home and then doing so many, doing my hobbies at home and stuff like that. But I remember I was really pushing myself to go to different parties, especially when it's a fresher year. You know, people go to
Hmm.
parties like every other day. So I was forcing myself to be one of those, like like a, like people who go out for parties and stuff like that. But it wasn't
Hmm.
really me. So it was exhausting. I remember.
Yeah.
But then because I was pushing myself really hard, I got to meet so many different people, get to know more about the culture more and stuff like that. So it was definitely a cool experience, but it was
Hmm.
exhausting at the same time.
Yeah. And did you meet any Japanese people as well? Because from my experience, I think as far as I remember, I haven't met any. Maybe it was just
Yes,
specific course. So how was it for you?
there were two exchange students from Japan, but I think they were there for temporarily.
Hmm.
Plan to go back to Japan like after they finish 1 year of studying in the UK. But
Hmm.
as a kind of like local student, I don't think I've met any other than
Hmm.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least it helped you to kind of fit in better because you couldn't uh, stay with with the people from the same background. So yeah, I think
Mm.
helped to socialize more.
Yeah, definitely.
So when it comes to the course you studied, can you introduce the course a bit more? Maybe what projects you were working on? How did you enjoy it?
Yeah. So my major was advertising, branding, and PR. So all different, it's like three different aspects all into one course.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, we learned so many different aspects of um, digital industry, I would say. For advertising, we learned, coming up with concepts, but also kind of measuring um, the performance of advertisements and stuff like that, as well as learning about more kind of graphic aspects for from branding classes. We learned how to use Photoshop. We learned how to kind of like create brand guidelines, set up tone and manner for a brand, the importance of how strong branding can be for many companies.
Hmm.
Um, we did a bit of a PR as well. We learned traditional PR and digital PR. Um, and on the third year, of my course, I remember I took one class which was I forgot the name of the class, but then it was kind of like a class where it asks you to it encourages you to kind of go for internships so that you can get some experiences before you
Yeah,
graduate
like
from
a
university.
placement.
Placement year, yeah, it was like a placement year, but it was kind of
Hmm.
like a class, so it was not the whole year, but it was just
Yeah.
one of the classes that we had. Um, and yeah, so to kind of like pass the class, you've got to um, apply for different internships and get experiences from that. So I remember I got my internship at this advertising agency based in London, but it's kind of like a Japanese advertising agency, but they've got like a branch based in London as well. So that's
Was that
how I got into.
coincidence?
No, I was kind of going for it
Yeah.
because I knew that I wouldn't be able to compete with other British students because they were also, trying to apply for different internships at different companies. So I was
Hmm.
like, oh, what's unique about me? Maybe I can speak Japanese. So
I
that's
guess
why I was like,
that's the
okay,
right approach, how to stand out and use your skills against others. Yeah.
yeah, especially when you don't have any experiences being a university student, you've got to kind of find out what's so unique about you,
Hmm.
what it makes you different from others. So I was like, maybe because I'm fluent in Japanese, maybe that's something
Yeah.
cool. So I looked into different Japanese advertising agencies based in the UK, and then I found one. I got an internship there, so that's how I got to work in the advertising industry while I was still at university.
Hmm. And did you enjoy working there? Did you actually get to, uh, work properly, or was it more like observing, or what was it like?
Yeah, so it was kind of like the company is big. It's really famous in Japan, but the London office is quite small, so they only had two people running the whole place.
Oh, well.
But yeah, it was amazing to me because if you go to smaller places like that, you get to experience with so many different things. Like they always ask you, they always need some help from someone.
Hmm.
Um, so I got to be part of so many different things, events, or planning some outdoor advertisements, or coming up with the social media content for a brand and stuff like that. So yeah, it was definitely a good experience that I had.
Hmm. And I guess if there are so few people, it helps you to learn more because as there are just a few people, they need to do and oversee more things at the same time. So you don't specialize, which probably helps you to learn more of different things. So I would say it's a good benefit.
Definitely, yes.
Mhm. So then, what was the like a final project of your studies?
So my dissertation, what did I do? I created my own brand.
Hmm.
I created my own website where I sold sportswear.
Hmm.
I used this business model called drop shipping, um, which is I'm not going to go into too much details, but basically, you don't have to have physical products, but you can still sell products.
Hmm.
Um, so I spoke with some vendors in China, and they agreed on shipping the products from China to the UK. So I opened my website with their products, um, but my intention was not to make money from it, but more to do with me gaining more experiences on how to create a shop from
Hmm.
branding perspectives.
Yeah.
So I designed the website. I also created brand guidelines, setting up a logo, setting up tone and voice, setting up with visual mood boards. kind of like all the essential things that you need to create a brand.
Yeah.
So I created these brand guidelines as well as creating my own website, and I put it all together and I submit it as my dissertation.
Yeah, that sounds like exciting project. How was the result? Did they like it?
Do you know what? It was amazing because not only this kind of project can showcase the designing skills that I've got, but it can also show the people that, I can create my own business and I have some business strategies as well
Hmm.
as an eye on creatives.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I think really helped me to get a job after graduating from university, because people kind of saw it and then thought maybe, this guy maybe can um, make some strategies as well as designing.
Yeah, it sounds to me like a great mix of both, that you can use your creativity and at the same time learn these business skills, so that in the end,
Mm,
you got a mix of both and not just one. And when you actually start your career, you can utilize it quite well. So it sounds like a good course.
yeah,
And
thank
then,
you.
what were your plans once you graduate? What did you want to do?
Yeah, so I really wanted to stay in the UK because I studied in the UK. So I kind of wanted to see how far I can go on in the UK in terms of my career. So I was
Hmm.
trying to look for jobs in the UK, but then it was quite similar to what I've said earlier. But um, to compete against with local people, you've got to have something that differentiates from the others. You've
Hmm.
got to be special. You've got to have something that British people don't normally have. Um, that's why I was looking into jobs that specifically require Japanese as well as English. But then yet I want it to be something, that's related to kind of what I wanted to do. As I said, one of the classes from university, this lady from an advertising agency came in and she did a seminar for us. And she's a creative executive at an advertising agency, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. So um, not only I was looking for Japanese speaking roles, but then I was also kind of carefully selecting um, kind of like to get into that kind of a direction of where I want to be.
Hmm. Yeah, it's really interesting when you said that this lady made such impression on you. It's interesting how basically one person can influence you, if I mean positively, if if they are excited about something, they show you something, and it can basically change the direction of your whole career. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, definitely was like a life changing moment for sure.
I wish there were more people like that, because when I compare it to, for example, some tutors at university, when they are a bit, I don't want to say boring, but quite the opposite of what you said, it really makes a difference. And when you meet someone like this, it makes you excited, and just a different level, I would say.
Do you know what? I completely agree with you on that because, I mean, the tutors that we had in our classes were amazing, but I was not kind of as impressed as was the lady. But this lady was kind of like a special guest.
Hmm.
It was like a like a part of a class where they bring a professional into a class so that students can ask a bunch of questions about what it feels like to be a professional in the creative industry.
Hmm.
Um, so that I remember I was like, oh, this is the real voice. This is the real opinion. This is actually what she does. This is what she gets paid for. And I was
Yeah,
like, that's what I want to do.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, yeah. If you want to boost your online presence, check out our digital marketing agency called Trailblazed. You can also enroll in our Skillshare course called the 10 Tips on How to Succeed in Your Creative Career, which was inspired by the podcast. Lastly, make sure to subscribe to our weekly newsletter called Creative Spotlight to stay up to date with the show and more. Links are in the show notes. Thanks. So what were your next steps? Did you then want to move back to Japan, or did you start researching jobs?
Yeah, so I was looking into different job opportunities in the UK, and I got a job a um, at a brand called MyProtein. If you've ever heard of it.
Yeah, of course. It's, oh my god, it's awesome. Because I'm customer. I think it's a great brand. I wouldn't mind working for them. So well done. It sounds like a
Oh
good
yeah,
thing.
yeah. So I got a job as a brand marketing executive at MyProtein,
Mm,
and yeah, taking care of kind of like marketing campaigns, coming up with the social media content, as well as executing some events. So for specifically for Japanese market, because I was looking into some jobs that requires Japanese, so I found a perfect job for me.
ooh, this is just a side note, and I'm not gonna lie, but behind me I've got a protein powder, and it's actually my protein. I don't want to show it because there is a mess, but I promise there is one. So it's great coincidence. And
Yeah,
how
if I was still in the company, maybe I could have given you a discount code, but unfortunately, I'm no longer part of the company.
And I wonder, how did you actually find such opportunity? Uh, because I would assume that once you finish, it's quite hard to find something without previous experience. I don't mean university experience, but experience from other jobs. But you landed a job in such a company. So how did you manage to do that?
Definitely. So as soon as I graduated from university, I remember having a job interview with MyProtein and applying for social media executive role. Um, they asked me to do some assignments and stuff like that. I believe I was at the final stage of the interview, but I didn't get it back then. Um, I was quite disappointed in that, but I still continue to look into different jobs out there. Um, but then I had um, limitation in how much time I had left because after graduating from university, if you come from overseas, you only get to stay for like how many months was it? I think it was like a year, but correct
Mm-hmm.
me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure anymore. But so yeah, I really had to find a job in the UK. Otherwise, I was sent back to I would have
Mm-hmm.
been sent back to Japan. Um, so yeah, I had this job interview. I didn't get it, and then I was still looking into different jobs. And then I think 4 or 5 months later, this person, um, I believe he was a recruiter from my team, came back to me, and he was like, "Oh, actually, we want you to come back to do another interview." So I was like, "Okay, well, that's cool with me." And I went for the interview, and they opened this another job role that's specifically related to marketing for sportswear.
Mm-hmm.
And do you remember I was telling you earlier that for my dissertation from university, I did this project of creating my own shop
Yeah,
and did the
yeah.
brand guidelines like that, and it was sportswear shop.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy that I had interviewed with, he rejected me once, but then he remembered that, oh, I saw his uni project in the
Mm-hmm.
interview, and I remember him creating his own shop, but specifically for sportswear.
Yeah.
So that's how he remembered me, and he when as soon as this um, job position as a brand marketing executive for sportswear came up, he was like, "Oh, he's the one." So he
Mm-hmm.
called me back in, and
Yeah.
I had another interview, and then finally I got the job.
Yeah, it's great. It shows not to underestimate the projects you work on during uni, because you never know how it can help you in the future.
Definitely.
Mhm. And can you introduce perhaps if there was like a specific project or specific campaign that you did in MyProtein, and say basically take us through the process from how to I don't know, how you design it until the final product?
Yeah, of course. So, MyProtein is a British company, a British nutrition company. They sell sportswear as well as protein, as it says on the brand name. And um, we have a global team who are centralized in the UK. So, um, anytime that they come up with a new product launch or etc., it always comes from the UK first. So they wanted to launch this sports new collection of sportswear in Japan as well as the UK. So we kind of had to come up with this campaign or promotion, and because my protein is very kind of like heavily depend. I don't want to say depend, but they actually use a lot of influencers to promote their products. So I wanted to create this opportunity where we invite all these Japanese influencers to the event so that they get to kind of know the product, as well as we get to shoot with content so that we can use later on for paid social, or on YouTube or Twitter or any social media platforms that we had for Japan market. So we planned this offline event, where we invited all these Japanese fitness influencers to the event. We did a yoga class. We invited a yoga instructor for that event as well. Not only the Japanese influencers got to kind of experience with the new collection of the sportswear that we wanted to push, but we also managed to kind of acquire content and videos so that we can use for advertisement when we actually push the product or launch the products.
Mhm.
That was one of the coolest experiences that I've had, because I got to go to Japan
Mhm.
for a few weeks, and I got to work with so many different influencers there at the event, as well as local event company and also a creative agency.
Well, yeah, that sounds like awesome experience, and you get to know these probably famous people, influencers, and work on something you enjoy. So that sounds great.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
what after working in MyProtein, what were your next steps?
So after working at MyProtein, I wanted to have um, experiences with different brands. So I ended up going to a marketing agency, or kind of like e-commerce marketing agency, based in Manchester. So I started working there, and we kind of took care of different brands, different clients, the different projects, and I stayed there for a while. So yeah, that was my second company that I worked for, excluding the
Hmm.
internship.
Yeah. So then, is there another one, or then there is a TikTok?
Yeah, so that's TikTok. So my protein marketing agency and TikTok. That's my third
Hmm.
job.
And before we discuss more your current job, are there any projects that maybe you are proud of or were cool for some reason, or you would like to mention and tell us more about?
From TikTok?
No, before the TikTok, like from the agency
Before
or from
TikTok.
the MyProtein?
Yeah. We did kind of like similar thing as I did for my protein, was that we became so one of the clients that we used to work for, um they were like selling um like a CBD oil. I'm not sure if
Hmm.
you've ever heard of it.
I
Which
haven't
obviously
tried, but I know it
you
is.
haven't tried it before. Yeah, it's kind of becoming really popular in Japan as well, and but we obviously needed more brand awareness, or product awareness, because a lot of Japanese people still don't know what CBD oil is. And then I think the client was kind of developing this specifically CBD oil for pets, like for
Oh,
dogs and
interesting.
cats.
I didn't expect
Yeah,
that.
interesting. Yeah, a lot of people think it's dangerous, but it's actually not dangerous. It actually makes them quite relaxed. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of like dogs and cats, when when they're stressed or when they feel sad, they need kind of like a proper treatment to kind of make them relaxed. And CBD oil definitely helps them to kind of feel more relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we did so we kind of asked them to become a sponsor of this kind of like a social event for pets in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then by becoming a sponsor, you can have a booth at the event where you can sell the products. So we planned this kind of sponsorship and also having a booth at the event so you can physically um, sell the product at the event
Mm-hmm.
was another cool experiences that I had. Not as well as get to be part of the event management side of a thing, but also um, kind of handling with the sponsorship and also coming up with the marketing executions and etc. So yeah, it was another exciting project that I got to be
Mm.
part of.
Yeah, I'm glad I asked this question because it sounds really cool and I didn't know this, so it's interesting. So then you started working for TikTok. Was it, again, such a big, well-known and popular brand? Was it something, I don't know, you wanted, or was it coincidence, or how did you end up in such a company?
So yeah, there's this girl that I used to work with at My Protein. She left the UK. She's also from Japan. She's Japanese, and she left the UK um, 2 years before me, and she started working at TikTok in Japan. She went back to Japan from the UK, um, and after my protein, I started working at this marketing agency. Um, but then while I was still working at the marketing agency, this friend works at TikTok. She told me that okay, there's this exciting opportunity for you, Ronnie. Like it would be really perfect for you. So she actually gave me a referral to TikTok Tokyo, and that's
Mm.
how I ended up going to back to Japan and working at TikTok.
Hmm. So you didn't mind moving back, or did you have to move back, or you wanted?
Um, yeah, good question, interesting question, because I had been living in the UK for 7 years by then, almost 8 years, and I guess I wanted to because I never really lived in Japan as an adult. Because I
Okay.
left Japan quite early. So I wanted to have experiences in Japan. I wanted to experience how it feels like to um, live as a professional in Tokyo
Mm.
because I've never lived in Tokyo either. Um, so yeah, I thought the opportunity itself was really, really fascinating. That job was specifically what I wanted to do, but then at the
Mhm.
same time, I wanted to live in Japan and experience a little bit.
Mhm. Yeah. And now from living in Tokyo, what is it like compared to living in Kyoto?
Oh, it's different. It's different. The size of it is completely different. I lived in several places in the UK: Manchester, Birmingham, London. But it's like the differences between Manchester and London. It's the
Oh,
size of
yeah.
it is different. The vibes of it's different.
Can
The
you
people are
say at
different.
least roughly the populations of Tokyo and Kyoto?
I honestly I don't know. I
I've
think
got.
Tokyo is insane.
Yeah, I agree. I would say because I'm sure that if I say the number, I will check afterwards and I will be like, "Why did you say this? It doesn't make sense." But it seems to me like it must be several times population of London, and I feel like London population is crazy, so I cannot imagine what is it like in Tokyo.
Yeah, in Tokyo is insane. Like on the weekends,
It,
you don't wanna even think about it.
mm. And is it very multicultural and multinational city?
I was quite surprised with that actually. Coming to Japan, because I only lived in Kyoto when I was younger. before I left Japan. And coming to Japan, I was not expecting to be this international. People are from all over the world, not only within TikTok, but also everywhere else. Like once you go outside, you see foreigners walking by, and there are so many people who live there as well. Live
Mm.
here as well. So yeah, it's much more international than I thought.
And how far is it from there to Kyoto?
It's like 2 hours and a half on a bullet train. You don't know
Okay.
if you
Yeah.
know what bullet train is.
I know it's. I know that it's a super modern, fast train that I've never used in like Europe or UK. Such a good one.
Yeah, it's like a train, but when you are in it, like you don't feel like it's moving because it's
It's
so
like
fast and it's so simple.
yeah, like from the future, isn't it? It's like a spaceship.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the inside, it's like it's okay. It looks like a normal train, but yeah, like I like the idea of it. Like, I like how fast it is, and I like how quiet it is.
Yeah. So, can you introduce us to your role in TikTok? What is it that you
Yeah.
do there?
So my role. So I work as a creative consultant at TikTok Tokyo, and I have two major responsibilities. First, together with sales team, I provide advertisers creative consultancy on how they can promote their brands or products on TikTok. So creative direction on their ads on TikTok and what kind of TikTok creators they should be collaborating with through consultation and visualization. My other responsibility is to hold creative workshops for advertisers. It's kind of like a seminar to educate them on what TikTok trends are, um, how they can create creatives suitable for TikTok. We also try to make it as interactive as possible by bringing TikTok creators for the workshop so that
Hmm.
kind of clients can ask them questions and etc. So yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, that sounds cool. And as we discussed before, that with the example from university, that the project was or the course was both business related and creative related.
Mhm.
Um, how much is it with your current job when it comes to actually being creative and when it comes to more like administrative and business side?
I would say my job at TikTok is very creative, orientated now. Um,
Hmm.
I'm like, to put it simply, I'm like the idea generator. So advertisers come to you and then be like, oh, we want to promote this product, but we don't know what to do on TikTok. Can you give me some examples of videos that we should be creating?
Hmm.
And you've got to be quick. Like you've got to make it visualization of what kind of storyboards um, they should use, what kind of creators that they should be collaborating with, and stuff like that. I try to come up with as many ideas as possible and present it to the client. If the client likes the idea, they take it, they actually put money on it and run the advertisement. And that's how my work is. So
Hmm.
I would say it's very creative centered.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So I can imagine one cannot be creative all the time. So what do you do when you don't have any ideas or when you don't have any creativity?
Yeah, really good. Yeah, really good question. When I feel like I'm, um, creatively tired, if I'm lacking of any inspirations, I try to go for walks and I try to read books and I try to take some time to talk to people. When you are stuck with coming up with something, it's really important to have chats with people or even try to do something that is completely different from what you've been doing, what you've been up to.
Hmm.
I think that's where true creativity comes in, is that like all the best things come when it's unexpected.
Hmm.
Um, So yeah, try to do something different. Try to talk to people who have different values and opinions. Collaboration is everything, and that's where the inspirations come from.
Hmm. I think it's great advice because I believe that's something everyone sometimes struggles with, and especially I try this podcast to be with people from creative industries. I'm pretty sure that there should be people who will find such advice helpful.
Definitely.
And again, a similar question to what we had before. Are there any projects worth mentioning?
Yeah, really, really cool projects, but I don't know how much details that I'm allowed to share.
Yeah,
um,
no, it's understandable. Something that you can maybe just give us a kind of a brief overview and don't go into much details.
yeah, so in my whole career, I've never worked with such like big clients that are global and well known when everyone hears. So there's definitely a lot of pressure, but then it's also such an amazing experience to be part of it because when client asks you to come up with ideas for their campaign or for their videos, and you pitch them, and when they take it, when it actually comes out as a campaign and runs it as a global campaign, it's so amazing to see your idea
Mm.
actually came true. And so you can literally see on TikTok when you're scrolling that like people are reacting to it, people are commenting on it.
Mm.
So yeah, it's definitely cool to be. I'm lucky enough to have this job.
Hmm. Yeah, it must be a great feeling. I agree. And are there, again, maybe you cannot mention, but are there any big names or brands that you worked with?
Yeah, so I work with three different categories of industries.
Hmm.
Uh, I look after car brands, so Mercedes, Toyota, Honda, Suzuki, um, and etc. And then I work with luxury and beauty clients, which are Chanel, Dior, um, Yves Saint Laurent, and and yeah, and for beauty, I work with L'Oreal and Shiseido, SK2, and etc. And
Such
the third,
big,
but
exciting brands.
yeah, yes, it is. It's a low pressure. I'm not gonna lie.
Mm.
And the last category that I work with are consumer goods and food and beverage. So McDonald's,
Mm.
Coca-Cola, Kit Kat, um, P&G, and Cow, and what else? KFC.
Yeah.
So those are the main clients that I look after.
Hmm. Yeah, that sounds awesome. Not gonna lie. And how big user of TikTok are you? Because as we know, the app is quite addictive. You start scrolling and you end up being there for hours. So you, as someone who's working there, how much do you use
Do you know what? It's my job now, so I
it?
actually spend too much time on it. um,
It's a good
but
excuse.
yeah, but another source of great inspiration, really, because TikTok is all about creativity.
Hmm.
People post so much, so many different things, so many. It's sometimes something that's so silly can become so big, and
Hmm.
that's really fascinating. And that's the one of the best things about TikTok. So when you're like scrolling it, like you see all this different content, and anything can absolutely be the next campaign for my own clients,
Hmm.
or inspirations for my own clients. So
Yeah.
I spend too much time on it.
Yeah. And I think it would be a shame not to ask you. So, can you share some advice for people who want to start or go viral on TikTok? Just to give you an idea, I post reels from this podcast on TikTok as well. So maybe what should I do better or focus on to spread the word more?
Yeah, so that's what, all the clients want to know usually is that how can we go viral? How can we make popular
Yeah.
TikTok videos and etc. That's what clients want to know always. But what I would say is that there's a tendency for successful content, but you cannot expect what viral videos would be. Because, as I said, something so silly can become so big, and the
Hmm.
best things always come from an unexpected place. Um, so you cannot predict what's going to go viral next. But then, at the same time, what I would say for those people who want to create their own content on TikTok and start something new is that just don't be afraid of doing something so stupid and just to be yourself. Because if nobody sees it, then that's it. You just keep it to yourself. If
Hmm.
everyone sees it, then that's a win. So be yourself and be creative and do something silly, do something stupid. That's my advice.
Yeah, I think it's a good advice. So, as we have 10 minutes left, what are your plans for the future, or your next goals, ambitions, or where do you see yourself in a few years?
Yeah, so I am in a really I'm quite lucky to work as a creative consultant as such a big tech company and to be able to collaborate and work with so many huge brands at this age is really blessing. Um, so for now, I want to build my portfolio as much as possible, get all these experiences, and launch these big campaigns with the big clients. And maybe in the future, maybe um, I want to maybe build my own creative agency,
Hmm.
maybe because yeah, I'm trying to build my portfolio, working with big clients, but I'm also um, fluent in Japanese and English. So maybe something to that helps kind of like connect between Japan and English speaking countries through my
Hmm.
creativity. That would be that would be my future plan.
Yeah, absolutely. With what you told us, with your experience, credits, clients you worked with, it sounds like you've got all you need to start something like that. And
No, I don't
speaking
have
of,
money.
yeah. And speaking of building your portfolio, you've got a website, right? But tell us where people can follow you or check your work.
You know what? I do have my portfolio website, but because I can't really put my client's work on it,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
um, yeah, there's nothing that is striking that you can say there. But if you can follow my LinkedIn, maybe I post some stuff there sometimes, or if you follow me on my Instagram, I post some inspirations that I
Hmm.
get from by going for walks or by hanging out with my friends, drawing, playing the bass guitar, whatever. So yeah.
Yep, I'll make sure to edit to show notes. I was gonna say, if they want to check your work, maybe follow those companies on TikTok, and there is a chance that you worked on their campaigns.
Definitely. Check out all these brands that I mentioned, and yeah, the campaign that I worked with or the idea that I came up with.
um, to also before we finish, what are some pieces of advice that you would share, whether university related, work related, or anything that is worth sharing?
Yeah, I mean, I for the longest time I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I was a creative person, but I think everyone's creative in some sense. But I never believed in myself that I'm better than someone, or I'm exceptionally good at something. But if you feel like you want to do something creative, just don't be afraid and try to connect with people and try to stick with what you are good at and try to explore what kind of jobs there are out there. Because you know I was into drawing. I was playing the bass guitar in the band, and I was crafting with papers and Play-Doh. I was not None of it was like I was on the professional level. But then I ended up doing something that I'm truly passionate now, and
Mm-hmm.
and if you have a bit of a creativity in your brain, I'm pretty sure that there are jobs out there that you can be so passionate and interested in. um, so yeah, try to connect with people, try to get inspirations, and try to seek for opportunities out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds great. And to finish it up, is there something that I should have asked you and did not, or something that you would like to share to finish with?
Not really, but when I was in the UK, everyone asks me, "Do you eat sushi every day?" But as a Japanese person, I say no.
Oh, okay. And perhaps can I have one more annoying question, or to ask you
Mhm.
to say something Japanese, something short? We will not understand, but I just wanted to ask you for that.
Sure, like anything.
Yeah, I mean, I will not understand. I just want to hear it.
じゃあ、めちゃめちゃお腹減りました。もうお腹減りすぎて、吐きそうなぐらいなんですけど、本当に楽しかったです。ありがとうございました。
Cool, I agree. You know what? Now I found out that it will not be fun with subtitles. I shouldn't have asked it. No, I'm just joking. Thank you
Do
for
you want me
that.
to translate?
Y- no, yes, please. What was it? I have no idea.
I said I was so starving. Maybe my organs gonna come out from my mouth, but I was at the same time I was so excited to be here. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity that you gave me.
uh, Thank you. I really appreciate it. So we can then wrap it up. Thank you so much, Ronnie. It was a pleasure, not just to speak with someone from, as I said, literally across the whole world, your experience. Really cool to bring over someone from a different area, different industry. And yeah, just a really cool job working for TikTok. So fingers crossed for your career. And thank you for joining.
Thank you so much for having me. I was having such a blast here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure and wish you good luck. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app, get in touch to provide your feedback, or share any ideas for future guests. Thank you and see you soon.